I'm talking about the entire restaurant. 52 people mid-bite, mid-sip, mid-laugh. The pianist's hands hovering over the keys. The sommelier holding a bottle of wine worth more than my car. My manager's face going from tan to ghost white in under 3 seconds. All because of what I'd just placed on Marcus Whitfield's table. And it wasn't his Chilean sea base. It was a USB drive. Small, black, innocent-looking. But that tiny piece of plastic contained enough evidence to destroy the most powerful real estate mogul in New York City. And I was the one who'd spent 6 months collecting every single file on it. Let me back up, because I know what you're thinking. What could possibly push a 24-year-old waitress to blackmail a billionaire in the middle of the city's most exclusive restaurant? Well, let me tell you, it wasn't about money. It was about my sister. My name is Jordan Hayes, and 3 months ago, I was just another broke college dropout trying to make rent in Manhattan. I worked at Aurelio, this 5-star place in Tribeca, where the appetizers cost $70 and the customers treated you like furniture. You know the type. They'd snap their fingers at you, talk through you like you were invisible, leave 5% tips on $400 bills. I smile, I nod, I bring their overpriced food, and I disappear. That was my life. But I wasn't always planning revenge. 6 months ago, I was actually happy. I had my crappy studio apartment, my student loans, my dreams of maybe going back to school someday, and I had my sister, Emily. She was 19, brilliant, funny, and working as a legal assistant at Whitfield Properties while taking night classes at NYU. She was everything I wasn't. Organized, ambitious, actually had her life together. Until Marcus Whitfield decided she'd be perfect for more than just filing his documents. I remember the first time Emily mentioned him. We were having coffee at this cheap diner near my apartment, our Sunday morning tradition. She was excited, talking about how Mr. Whitfield had personally complimented her work, how he'd invited her to a company dinner, how this could be her big break. I was happy for her, my little sister, making moves, impressing the boss. I didn't know I was watching her walk into a trap. The harassment started small. Comments about her appearance, texts at inappropriate hours, requests to work late that always ended with him too close, his breath smelling like scotch, his hand on her lower back. Emily tried to handle it professionally. She documented everything, went to HR, followed every rule in the book. That's when Marcus Whitfield showed her exactly how much power he had. HR buried her complaint. Her coworkers stopped talking to her. And then 2 weeks after she filed that report, Emily was fired. Not for her complaint. Oh no, they were too smart for that. They fired her for performance issues and unprofessional conduct. They made sure she'd never work in a corporate office in this city again. I found her in her apartment 3 days after she lost her job. She hadn't eaten, hadn't showered, just sitting on her floor, staring at nothing, clutching the termination letter. My brilliant, ambitious little sister looked broken, and when she finally looked at me, she said the words that still haunt me. He wins, Jordan. Men like him always win. That's when something inside me snapped. If you're wondering how this story ends, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single detail, because what I did next changed both of our lives forever. I started researching Marcus Whitfield that same night. Not just casual Google searches. I went deep. Court records, business filings, social media, everything. And here's what I learned. My sister wasn't the first. She wasn't even the 10th. Marcus Whitfield had been sexually harassing employees for years, and he had a system. He targeted young women, usually in entry-level positions, always women who needed the job too badly to risk losing it. And when they finally spoke up, his army of lawyers and HR professionals crushed them. But here's the thing about being invisible. Nobody notices when you're paying attention. I'd been working at Aurelio for 2 years. Marcus came in every Thursday night. Same time, same table, same order. He brought business associates, signed deals over wine that cost more per bottle than I made in a week. And he talked. Oh, did he talk? Because to men like Marcus Whitfield, waitresses don't have ears. We're not real people. We're just part of the scenery. So I started listening. Really listening. I learned about his offshore accounts, his shell companies, the bribes to city officials, the buildings he owned that violated every safety code but somehow passed inspection, the tenants he illegally evicted, the construction workers he paid under the table. Every Thursday, he'd sit at table 12, drink his Macallan 25, and casually discuss all the illegal things that made him rich. And I wrote it all down. I bought a tiny recording device, cost me $200 I didn't have, put it on my credit card. I wore it every Thursday, pinned inside my uniform, and I recorded everything. 6 months of conversations, 6 months of evidence, insider trading, tax evasion, bribery, and yes, a detailed conversation about handling employee complaints, where Marcus literally laughed about that little brunette who thought HR would help her. He was talking about my sister, and he was laughing. I wanted to break his nose right there, smash his face into that $30 appetizer. But I didn't, because I was building something bigger than my anger. I was building his destruction. I spent every night after work transcribing recordings, matching them to documents I found through public records requests, connecting dots. I barely slept, lived on coffee and rage. My friends stopped calling because I never had time. My manager asked if I was okay because I'd lost 12 pounds. I wasn't okay. I was obsessed. But I was also getting close. The USB drive I put on his table tonight contained everything. Audio recordings, financial documents, text messages I'd obtained from a paralegal at his company who he'd also harassed and who was more than happy to help once I told her what I was doing. Emails, photos, a complete timeline of criminal activity spanning 5 years. I had him. I had everything. The question was, what was I going to do with it? I could go to the police, sure, but Marcus Whitfield had half the NYPD on his payroll. I could go to the press, but his lawyers would bury it before it went to print. I could post it online, but without context, without impact. It would just be another scandal that rich people weather and forget. No, I needed something bigger, something he couldn't escape, something public and humiliating and permanent. So I decided to serve it to him at dinner. Have you ever planned something so crazy that you can't believe you're actually doing it even as you're doing it? Drop a comment below and tell me about it, because I want to know I'm not the only one who's ever stood on the edge of changing their entire life. The plan was simple but insane. Thursday night, Marcus's regular table, his regular time. But instead of bringing him his steak, I'd bring him the USB drive and a simple choice. Resign from your company, publicly admit to your crimes, pay restitution to every woman you've harassed, or I release everything to the FBI, the SEC, the IRS, and every major news outlet in the country. I knew I'd probably get fired. I knew I might get sued. I knew I was risking everything. But watching my sister's life fall apart while her abuser got richer and more powerful, that was a risk I couldn't live with anymore. Thursday came. I put on my uniform like always, pinned my name tag like always, tied my hair back like always. But when I looked in the mirror, the woman staring back at me wasn't the same person who'd been invisible for 2 years. She was someone who'd found her voice, and she was about to use it. My manager, David, gave me my section assignments. Table 12, Marcus Whitfield's table. My hands were sweating so badly I could barely hold the notepad. "You okay, Jordan?" David asked. "You look pale." "I'm fine," I lied. I wasn't fine. My heart was beating so hard I thought everyone could hear it. My stomach was doing flips. I felt like I was going to throw up or pass out or both. But I also felt alive for the first time in 6 months. Marcus arrived at 8 sharp, like clockwork. Tailored suit that probably cost 10 grand. Rolex that cost more than most people's cars. That smug smile that said he owned the world and knew it. He had 2 associates with him tonight, both men, both in expensive suits, both wearing the same expression of entitled superiority. I approached the table, my legs somehow still working despite feeling like jelly. "Good evening, gentlemen. Can I start you off with something to drink?" Marcus didn't even look at me, just held up 2 fingers. "Macallan 25, 3 glasses. No, please." "No, thank you." Because why would you say please to a servant? I brought their drinks, took their orders, disappeared into the background like I was supposed to. But the whole time, I had the USB drive in my apron pocket, and it felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. The restaurant was packed tonight, every table full, the usual crowd, investment bankers, tech CEOs, old money families, celebrities trying to look like they weren't celebrities. The kind of people who existed in a different world than mine. A world where consequences didn't apply and money solved everything. But tonight, I was about to crash their world into mine. I waited until they'd finished their appetizers. Waited until Marcus was relaxed, laughing at some joke about screwing over a competitor, his third scotch making him loud and careless. That's when I made my move. I walked to table 12 with the USB drive palmed in my hand. My manager was across the room. The other waiters were busy. The timing was perfect. I set down their entrees one by one. Wagyu steak for Marcus, Dover sole for his associates. And then, as I placed Marcus's plate in front of him, I set the USB drive next to his knife. He looked at it, frowned, picked it up. "What's this?" That's when I leaned down, close enough that only he could hear me, and whispered, "Don't say a word." His face went from confused to pale in seconds. Because Marcus Whitfield might be a predator, but he's not stupid. He knew exactly what that USB drive meant. And that's when I straightened up and said, loud enough for the entire section to hear, "Mr. Whitfield, I need to speak with you about the evidence of sexual harassment, fraud, and criminal activity you've committed over the past 5 years. You have 2 choices. Take responsibility now, or I release everything to the authorities." Seconds later, everyone froze. I'm not exaggerating. The entire restaurant went silent. Forks stopped moving. Conversations cut off mid-sentence. Even the piano music seemed to pause. 52 people, all staring at our table. All staring at Marcus Whitfield, the most powerful man in the room, being confronted by a waitress. Marcus's face went through about 5 different emotions: shock, anger, fear, calculation, rage. His associates looked like they wanted to disappear into their chairs. My manager was speed-walking toward us, his face a mask of panic. "Jordan, what the hell are you doing?" David hissed when he reached the table. But I kept my eyes on Marcus. "I'm giving Mr. Whitfield a choice. He can make this right, or everyone in this city will know exactly what kind of man he is." "You have no idea what you're doing," Marcus said, his voice low and dangerous. "Do you know who I am? Do you have any concept of how badly I can destroy your life? About as badly as you destroyed my sister's?" I shot back. "Emily Hayes. You remember her, right? The legal assistant you harassed, assaulted, and then fired when she reported you? Or is she just one name on a very long list?" I could see people at other tables pulling out their phones. In the age of social media, nothing stays private. Especially not a public confrontation at New York's most exclusive restaurant. "I'm calling the police," David said, his hand already reaching for his phone. "Go ahead," I said. "Call them. Call them and I'll give them copies of everything on that USB drive. Bank records showing bribes to city officials. Audio recordings of Marcus admitting to tax fraud. Text messages about illegal evictions. Should I keep going?" Marcus stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" I pulled out my phone and held it up. "One button, Marcus. One button and I send everything to the FBI, the SEC, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and about 15 other outlets who would love this story. A billionaire real estate mogul, serial sexual predator, and white-collar criminal, exposed by a waitress he never even bothered to look at. Would you have done the same thing in my shoes? Let me know in the comments. I love reading your thoughts, and I need to know if I'm crazy or if you would have gone even further." The restaurant was dead silent. Every eye on us. Every phone recording. Marcus Whitfield, the man who controlled half of Manhattan, was finally being seen for what he really was, and he couldn't buy his way out of this moment. "You want to destroy me?" he said, his voice shaking with rage. "Fine, but I'll bury you. I'll sue you for everything you don't have. I'll make sure you never work in this city again. You'll what?" I interrupted. "Harass me? Lie about me? Use your power to crush me? Funny, because that's exactly what you did to my sister, and Sarah Chen, and Michelle Rodriguez, and Anna Kowalski, and Rebecca Turner. Should I keep reading names, or do you want to stop pretending you're the victim here?" His associates were already standing, trying to distance themselves from the bomb going off at their table. David looked like he might have a heart attack, and Marcus Whitfield, for the first time in his life, looked powerless. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, my voice steady despite my hands shaking. "You're going to resign from Whitfield Properties. You're going to publicly admit to the harassment and apologize to every woman you've hurt. You're going to pay them restitution, real money, not hush money. And you're going to cooperate with investigators about your financial crimes. You do that, and maybe, I don't release the worst of what I have. And if I don't," I pressed a button on my phone, "then this email goes out to 63 people, and by tomorrow morning, you won't just be unemployed. You'll be in federal custody." Marcus stared at me, and I watched the calculation happening behind his eyes. He was weighing his options, trying to find a way out, looking for the angle that would let him win. But there wasn't one. Not this time. "You have 24 hours, I said. "After that, I release everything anyway. Because this isn't really about giving you a choice, Marcus. It's about making sure everyone knows what you are." I turned and walked away from the table, my legs somehow still holding me up, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. Behind me, I could hear the restaurant erupting into noise. Shocked conversations, phones dialing, David calling my name. But I kept walking, past the tables of rich people whose perfect evening I'd just ruined, past the host stand, out the front door into the cold November night. And then I ran. I ran 3 blocks before I had to stop, leaning against a building, trying to catch my breath. My phone was blowing up. Texts from coworkers, calls from David, notifications from social media. Because of course someone had already posted the video. "Waitress exposes millionaire" was trending. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. And I had absolutely no idea what happened next. The next 24 hours were insane. The video went viral. 10 million views by morning. News outlets were calling me. Lawyers were calling me. The FBI actually showed up at my apartment at 6 a.m., and I'm not gonna lie, I thought I was being arrested. But they weren't there for me. They were there because 3 other women who'd been harassed by Marcus Whitfield saw the video and came forward with their own evidence. And then 5 more. And then 12. By noon, it was a full investigation. Marcus tried to fight it. His lawyers issued statements calling me a liar, a disgruntled employee, a criminal. They threatened lawsuits. They tried to discredit me. But here's the thing about truth. Once it's out, you can't put it back. The audio recordings were verified. The financial documents were real. The witnesses were credible. And the public outrage was massive. People who'd been invisible their whole lives, treated like I'd been treated, finally had a voice. And they were using it. 16 days after that night at Aurelio, Marcus Whitfield resigned from his company. 23 days later, he was arrested on multiple charges including fraud, bribery, and sexual harassment. 31 days later, he was out on bail but facing serious prison time. And Emily, my sister who'd been broken and hopeless, she got a job at a nonprofit that helps harassment victims. She's back in school. She's smiling again. She's alive again. As for me, I got fired from Aurelio, obviously. David called it unprofessional conduct and disturbing the guests. But I didn't care. Because 3 days after I lost that job, a victims' rights organization hired me as their spokesperson. Turns out, being the waitress who exposed a billionaire predator makes you pretty employable in certain circles. I won't lie and say everything is perfect now. Marcus's lawyers are still trying to sue me. I get death threats on social media. Some restaurants won't hire me because I'm controversial. My student loans are still crushing me. But my sister is okay. 15 other women got justice. And Marcus Whitfield is finally facing consequences for his actions. Was it worth it? Absolutely. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And don't forget to subscribe, because I'm not done telling stories about people who fought back and won. Sometimes I think about that moment at table 12, when I whispered, "Don't say a word," to the most powerful man in the room. How everything froze. How the invisible waitress suddenly became the most important person in that restaurant. People ask me if I was scared. Of course I was scared. I was terrified. But I was more tired than scared. Tired of watching powerful men hurt people and get away with it. Tired of being invisible. Tired of silence. So I spoke up. I used the evidence I'd gathered, the voice I'd found, and the platform I'd never asked for but suddenly had. And I learned something important. Power doesn't come from money or position or prestige. Real power comes from truth and courage and refusing to be quiet when everything in you wants to scream. My sister told me something last week that made me cry. She said, "You gave me my life back." But honestly, she gave me mine too. Because standing up for her meant standing up for myself. Exposing Marcus meant exposing every system that protects men like him. And finding my voice meant helping other people find theirs. The woman who walked into Aurelio that Thursday night was invisible, scared, and silent. The woman who walked out was none of those things. And I'm never going back. So here's what I want you to know. If you're being harassed, abused, or mistreated by someone with power, you're not alone. Document everything. Find allies. Build your case. And when you're ready, speak up. It won't be easy. It might cost you. But your voice matters more than their comfort. And to every person who's ever felt invisible, who's ever been treated like they don't matter, who's ever watched someone powerful get away with hurting people, you have more power than you think. You just have to be brave enough to use it. That USB drive sitting on Marcus Whitfield's table changed everything. But the real weapon wasn't the evidence I'd collected. It was the choice I made to stop being silent. "Don't say a word," I'd whispered to him. And then I said every word that needed to be said. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to stay quiet, even when you're shaking, even when you're scared, even when the entire world tells you to know your place and stay invisible. Because you're not invisible. You never were. And your voice? It's more powerful than any man's money.